here we go. Got an awesome guest in studio, Breland. Thanks for coming in, man.
Good to be here, man.
I was just asking you if you're busy, and you said no, nothing much, just shooting a music video today.
Yeah.
That seems semi-important.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to be able to shoot them, but in terms of just overall time commitment, it's only like a few hours.
Oh, really?
It's a song that I'm featured on, so I'm actually only have to be there for like a little bit.
You're featured on everything now, aren't you?
Yeah, I like collabs.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you have the opportunity to share a song with somebody, and then opportunities come to be able to perform it together, share audience, fans, I feel like it's just good for the culture when people hop on songs together.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26 years old.
Yeah.
Are you living in Nashville now?
Yeah, I am.
When did you get to Nashville?
A little over a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a fun time. I moved here in August so I guess we're coming up on 2 years. August of 2020. It was pretty convenient because everybody was still home in terms of like all the different artists in town weren't touring for the first time ever, and so I got to town and was able to write with a bunch of people really early and catch people in a good headspace. So it was pretty productive.
I mean, you've got your own new album coming out.
Yeah.
New tour coming out this year.
Yeah.
What, this month coming up, right?
Yeah, we're hitting the road.
Is that the first time kind of doing that?
Last summer was really my first time doing that. I went out on the road with Dirks, and I was featured on his song "Beers on Me," and he took me out for a couple shows. And initially, it was just supposed to be 2 shows, and because of the way the pandemic had played out timing-wise, I put out my first single a couple months before everything shut down. So I literally hadn't had a chance to play a show, and then it ended up being a year and a half later before I played my first one. And like my third show that I played was opening for Dirks, and then we ended up doing like 15 shows last summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Who else is going on the road with you?
Right now it's just me and my band, and we're doing like a pretty big festival run.
That's awesome.
And some county state fairs, and then a couple things opening for different artists. But for at least for May, June, and July, we're doing a lot of like soft ticket stuff where people can come and do a bunch of other things and also see us.
See you.
Yeah.
When's the album drop?
At some point this summer, we're waiting on a couple more vocals. I have a couple features that I wanna get in before we're fully done. But definitely this summer, I feel good about that. And this is the debut album too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's like you only get to do it once.
You want to get it right.
Yeah, you want to get it right.
Yeah.
Initially, I was like in such a hurry and rush to try to get it done. I'm like, can we get the album out? I want to get the album out. But now I'm like, you know what? Like, let's get it right.
Yeah,
Let's get it right and make sure we feel good about it, because 20, 30 years from now, I'm going to look back on it and I want to be able to be like, I loved it when we did it and I still love it now.
Yeah.
Versus, I kind of liked it when we did it, but I really just wanted to get it out, and now I wish that we had taken more time.
No, I get it. I think that's the right headspace. Let's go back. So, I mean, you're from what, Jersey?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Two ordained ministers were your parents.
Yeah.
Were you an only child?
No, I've got siblings.
Yeah?
Yeah. My older sister sings, just a big singing family.
Big singing family.
Yeah.
And that's just how you grew up.
Yeah, it's just how I grew up.
Church, gospel, singing in church, all those things.
Exactly. Tell me this, bro. Did you grow up in a big sports family, or were you the one?
I was, I had 2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I always played sports, from literally as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Either outside by myself doing it, or neighborhood kids. My sisters, I mean, they dabbled. They played tennis a little bit, but you could tell it wasn't really like a huge passion of theirs.
Got you.
So like it was like, I can always remember we were always just at my games doing something, and they were kind of around.
Because sometimes there's certain families where it's like everybody plays
Everyone
sports,
does it,
or like the Mannings, or like whatever. You kind of just born into it. That's how I felt musically.
Sure. Was
that my parents met in a choir.
Yep.
Lead worship at church, and that's the vibe. So
you didn't have a choice.
Didn't really have a choice. You're gonna sing. You're gonna figure it out. And I wasn't like some superstar kid that everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's insane. No, I was not a prodigy kid.
Yeah.
What I would say, all this recent success is the result of, more than anything, is that I just wanted it more, and I've put in an incredible amount of hours there were multiple years on end where I was in the studio for 18 hours a day, writing and recording 3 to 5 songs a day. Like that, you got to do that. But I think starting out in a musical household definitely helped set me up for that.
When do you remember music being a big part of your life? What age? I mean, always?
It was always a big part, at least, you know, just around the house. But I would say around 14, I was like, so I had the I guess we could call it the fortune of being one of the earliest subscribers to Justin Bieber's YouTube channel, like one of the earliest ones, like maybe 5,000 people in.
No kidding.
For real, like really early. And then
how'd you find him?
I had been kind of on YouTube, and I was kind of wanting to get into YouTube and make covers, and he was covering all the songs that I was thinking about covering, and I'm like, who is this kid? And I just happened to catch it really early. So by the time a year passed and he blew up on YouTube, and he's really the first one to blow up on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And that changed my whole framework of, because before it's like, oh, in order to get into music, you have to know somebody, you gotta, you know, and I'm like, wait, he literally just came up off the internet.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I want to do that. So I made a YouTube channel and started making videos, doing covers of songs, doing original songs, doing original verses on songs, and just seeing if I could gain some traction that way. And that was when I started getting serious about it.
Is he a little bit older than you?
He's like a year older than me.
Yeah,
so I mean, it felt like really accessible.
Yeah, it was like a peer. Like, if he can do it, I can do this. Like, he gave you a pathway.
Right. So, you know, definitely shout out JB on that, because it felt like one of those things that I'm like, okay, well, I can do it now.
Sure.
It's kind of like, I think it happens in sports a lot too, where you know, you have a professional player that pops off from a certain hometown, and then all the kids there are like, oh my gosh, we can do that now.
Yeah.
And you see that happen across a bunch of different sports. That's how I felt, though we're not from the same town.
Yeah, totally. I mean, sometimes, like, there's people out there that just have like just belief and confidence, like that nothing can face them. Like, no matter ups, downs, like, they're gonna figure out. And there's other people, I mean, I was probably more this way, like, hey, I need to see kind of a little bit of a pathway.
Right.
Let's see somebody that I know did it, or I get in a situation, I'm like, oh wait, I can do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I totally understand that. Who were some of your musical influences growing up?
Growing up, you know, listening to primarily gospel. As a kid, it was like Kirk Franklin, Fred Hammond. I liked Rascal Flatts too.
Was country an influence early on?
Country was an influence in some of the crossover gospel stuff, that, like, you know, Christian contemporary music I was familiar with. And then kind of going back a ways, there was, you know, just certain things as like a music fan. I'm like, oh wow, Dolly Parton has written a bunch of hits across a bunch of different genres. Like that was fascinating to me for sure. And then as I got a little older and started exploring more different genres of music, country kept raising its hand, because I'm like, the songwriting was so superior to me. You know, there were a few hip hop artists that I felt like were able to get some of that storytelling, like a Kendrick Lamar, you know, Jay-Z in his own way, J. Cole. But then in the country space, I'm like, dude, you can't top this. Like
it's a story.
It's a story, but you know, and I'm a songwriter too. So kind of coming up, I made a pretty hard pivot away from artistry into just wanting to write songs for people, because it felt like most of my favorite artists had come up that way. And I was like, that feels like a path, and I really do love writing songs and being creative, and it's kind of like a puzzle for me. And country music, I felt like they were getting that puzzle the fastest.
Sure.
Where I'm like, the way the hooks land in country with like there's the aha moment, and I was like, I want to be able to figure out how to do that. So I definitely had an appreciation for country a lot sooner than I was actually making it.
I gotcha. So 13, 14, I mean, we're listening to Biebs. You're starting your own YouTube. I mean, you're writing songs left and right at this point?
Yeah, at this point I had started writing some songs, was playing them. I went to a boarding school for high school.
Really? Uniforms, the whole thing?
Not even that strict. I mean,
where at?
In New Jersey.
New Jersey.
You know, a lot of kids would go there for sports, honestly. But it was a really strong academic school, and I was a nerd, so I felt like.
What was your favorite subjects?
I loved writing.
Yeah.
And like I was reading a lot.
Sure.
But even math, I don't know. I liked the competitive aspect of school of like, this is the best you can do.
Sure. And
especially once they started introducing a curve where I'm like, oh, I'm literally competing against these people. We could all get an A, but only 30% of us are going to get an A. Like I did kind of like that just as a competitive dude. But, you know, in high school, I was definitely that kid on campus that was like telling people that I was an artist and like trying to, you know, performing at everything, open mic nights. I was in the musicals. I was just, you know, doing a lot of music on campus. And also just to be said, for a while after I graduated, I did have the box jump record. So it wasn't all music, Dad. I just need you to know.
Yeah, there's a little juice in there.
There is an athlete hidden inside me, bro. I'm telling you.
In there.
Every artist feels that way.
They do.
Every artist wants to be.
Every artist wants to be an athlete, and every athlete wants to be an artist.
Wants to be an artist. I'm telling you, bro. It's real. But yeah, bro, I had a 51-inch box jump, and I'm only 5'8". Like, so come on.
That's getting up there.
I was up there.
Hell yeah, you were.
I was up there, but yeah, mostly music in high school, and I definitely credit that environment with a lot of my success now, because I didn't really have a lot of performance experience growing up outside of church. And church is an interesting performance experience because you're not gonna get the credit for that. It's like they're gonna praise God regardless of how well you sing.
They're not really gonna.
They're not praising you. They're not there for you. Like they're
not really gonna tell you you're awful either.
Right. Yeah. So it's a safe space. Like people could come out at church and completely bomb.
Yeah.
And people, like, they're gonna clap anyway. Oh, you know, God bless it. So I think in high school it was like trying to get the confidence of like, this is a real environment. They're not just gonna cheer for me regardless. Like I have to earn that. And I had some really awful performances. I had some moments that I literally had to like run off the stage before the performance was even over because it was just like everything was going wrong.
What instruments do you play?
I play a little keys, and I've like fiddled around with drums and guitar over the years, but primarily just vocals.
Just vocals, yeah.
And I think at this point, though, I could probably learn a few songs and would love to introduce that to my live show. My band is so good at what they do, and I like to be able to move around. Sometimes I think when you have a guitar in your hand, you're limited in terms of what you can actually do. So I'm like, I like performing the way that I am right now.
Let them do what they do. You do what you do. Yeah.
It's time to finally get outdoors and entertain. I'm talking pool parties, barbecues, but if your yard looks like a plant cemetery, you're not going to enjoy it as much. And you probably don't want to spend hours in the yard trying to get it looking right. So make it easy and get your place looking like a resort with Fast Growing Trees. When it comes to caring for your plants, know-how matters. That's why FastGrowingTrees.com's experts curate thousands of plant varieties that will thrive in your specific climate, location, and needs. No more waiting in lines and no messy cars from hauling plants all over town. Because you order online and over the phone, and your plants are shipped to your door in 1 to 2 days. Plus, their growing and care advice is available 24/7. Even if you've never had a green thumb, they'll make you feel like you do. 1 million home gardeners have already seen what FastGrowingTrees.com can do for them. And look, I'm not spending the day in the yard and trying to keep my landscape looking fresh. That's why I love the convenience and expertise of FastGrowingTrees.com. Plus, with a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, you can trust everything will be healthy for years to come. Go to FastGrowingTrees.com/Cutler right now, and you'll get 15% off your entire order. Get 15% off at FastGrowingTrees.com/Cutler, FastGrowingTrees.com/Cutler.
So then, I mean, I read that you turned down Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music.
Yeah.
To study business at Georgetown.
Yeah.
How'd you make that? How did you come across that decision? Did you know what you wanted to do at the end of high school?
Yeah, I knew that it was gonna be music.
Were you did you have like a part-time job or anything like that, or no?
I had like little internships doing like whatever, just nonsense. But you know, I knew that music was gonna be a part of my long-term goals, and I'd had enough little things happen that at the time felt like big things. Like, I don't know, a couple videos of mine on YouTube got like 500,000 views or something, and I was like, whoa, like,
it's a lot.
You know, like little moments like that. I was starting to get paid on YouTube videos, and like that I was able to like buy a pair of shoes with off a video that I made. You know, I was like, that's cool.
That was before, like, it was. I mean, it's huge now.
Yeah, it's
obviously.
huge now. This is like 2012. This is like, you know, over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think some of those moments let me know I'm like, there's something here that if I continue to work at it and really put my head down and get to it, that it can happen. So you applied
to Institute of, you applied there?
Yeah, I applied to NYU.
Did you have to apply, like, did you have to apply music samples and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was an audition process. Yeah. And I applied to a couple of different music programs because I thought maybe that would be the path. But the more I thought about it and the more I read on how people got into music, it rarely had anything to do with where they went to school.
Sure.
And so much as the types of decisions that they made. And I'm like, I want to understand business.
There probably aren't a handful of musicians that went to a proper music school.
There's only a few.
Yeah.
A lot of people in music never went to college at all. You don't need higher education to write a story and to have an experience. I think it's one of the few professions that there isn't. It's not like your chances of succeeding in it go up the more education you have. If anything, you got to kind of jump into it earlier. Mm-hmm. But you know, I definitely felt like if I had an understanding of how business worked in general, that I would be able to plug music into it. Because I'm like, what makes a guy like Jay-Z successful isn't just off of the music. The music is a small piece of his revenue, you know? It's all of the other business ventures that he has and what he was able to use his celebrity and his influence to accomplish. Otherwise, that makes him the person that we know him to be right now. And I was looking at the different superstars across every genre, and it's the same thing. It's like they're business people, you know.
It's incredible insight at 17, 18, 19 years old.
I just as I said, bro, I'm a nerd, so I study that stuff, and I'm looking at it, I'm paying attention to like how are people getting into this, because I think a lot of times.
I think you're also looking at how are people sustaining it and lasting and growing
20, 30 years.
Yeah.
But with like in the sports world, there's a clear path at least for a lot of sports, where it's like, hey, you got to play in these AAU type leagues. You got to succeed at the high school level. It helps if you can win like a county or state championship. And then, in the recruiting process, ideally, if you want to make a career out of this, you got to go D1. You got to start at some point during your career there. You got to get some film. It helps if you can get some bowl games or to get to the tournament or whatever sport you're in. And then you move through that, and then it gets easier when you're finished with college or after 2 or 3 years, where it's like, okay, there's a path for this of being able to get drafted or at least be able to try out for a team. You don't really have any of that in music.
No, there's no blueprint.
There's no blueprint for it. So I think that's why I was so focused on trying to understand how to do it, because every other career path, it's like, okay, you go to college and then you go to med school or you go to law school, and you get these certifications in music, you just don't have it. It's like someone has to discover what you're doing, and now the whole blueprint of what people were doing the previous 30 years now, because of the internet, is totally different.
It's gone.
And even now it's different than it was 10 years ago when I was, finishing high school. It's different because there's TikTok and different social medias that have evolved in a way that's not just like YouTube or, so trying to stay on top of all of that and blaze your path within it definitely takes, you got to roll the dice, and some of them won't pan out and some of them will. But I tend to believe that if you work really hard and continue to put yourself out there, those types of opportunities become more likely.
Oh, without a doubt. And the amount of hours that you've put into your craft is paying off in dividends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people that they just don't put that much time into it.
Yeah.
And this is anything you want to be really great at or even really good at. It requires a commitment. It requires sacrifice.
Tell me this, Jay, because I grew up watching you play football, and I don't know is that weird for you at this point to not you used to it.
I think it's weird to know that you're definitely getting older, I'm getting older.
We're all getting
We're
older.
all getting older.
Everyone watching this is also getting older.
Oh, I agree.
It beats the alternative.
You know, I've got 3 kids, and like, you know, them to talk about, oh, I remember when you used to play, and it's like, well, to me, it feels like it wasn't that damn long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
I mean, a lot's changed. Like, it's not weird. It's just to know, like, all right, you know, there's going to be a generation coming up soon. Like, they've never seen you do anything. So
Right.
it's just funny that at, you know, 37, I just turned 39, that, you know, this whole new phase of my life is starting, which is, I mean, it's exciting, but it's also weird to know that, you know, I did something from 4 to 35.
Right. People say that you are the best quarterback the city of Chicago has ever seen. How does that feel? Because I don't know if I've ever quite gotten to a point where I'm like the best at a specific thing.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day people will say that about something.
I'm sure.
Like, do you acknowledge that? Is that just like a...
You know, it's weird to hear it. You know, I think the NFL like quarterback position it's kind of like a little frat, because I mean, at the end of the day, there's only 32 of you
at one time.
At one time in the world.
Right.
Which is crazy. It's a crazy number to think about.
And there's only like 20 of you that are able to start multiple years.
Yeah,
you know?
year after year after
right.
year and put it through. So, you know, started for 12 years. I mean, then it was a heck of a ride, and you know, to be part of that absolute sliver of the population in the world and be able to do that at a high level. I mean, it's something I'm really proud of. But
you a legend when you go to Chicago?
We just took a bunch of us, a couple guys from the office, and then some friends. We just took all of our boys up, and we went to a Bears game in January. A Bears game, a Bulls game, and a Hawks game.
Wow.
Back 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a blast. And I mean, going back to Soldier Field in Chicago is always fun. I mean, they always treat me well. So Chicago, I feel like Chicago, they like me more now than whenever I was there. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes. I think
sometimes.
when fans get, you know, I'm an Eagles fan, big Philly sports market, and like as a fan base, like we suck. You know, like we're great.
Oh yeah.
But we suck. Like we
passionate as hell.
Super
but literally
passionate.
will turn on a dime.
Turn on a dime. I'm like, bro, we're one season into our new quarterback and coach situation, and you know, I remember mid-season people are booing him. I'm like, bro, he's played 8 games. Like, give him a chance. But
that's the hard part now, because you know, whenever I got in 06, I was with Mike Shanahan, and you know, I didn't play the first 9-10 games. So
right.
I mean, they sat me, and now these kids coming in now, you know, I think they're a lot more polished. They've had a lot more coaching, you know, with all the camps and everything on Instagram. They all have quarterback coaches. So I think they're farther along down the line, but the NFL is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
It just is.
But you still
Everyone's
see
good.
like people who don't have that year to sit and watch. That rookie season is almost always really tough on quarterbacks. Running backs, wide receivers, you can come in.
Oh, you can go.
You could go. You could get 1,000 yards off rip. But quarterback, you come in, the game is faster.
Everyone's good. Windows closed.
Right.
Offense is harder. Defense
you can't
is harder.
scramble as well. Defensive linemen can chase you down.
They're as fast as you. And you got to look at, like, you know, most of the, you know, the guys that are drafted in the top 10 as quarterbacks, like, they're going to bad teams.
Right. So it's like, do you expect this 21-year-old kid to be able to turn a franchise around?
I mean, you can go back to Peyton Manning. Like, Peyton Manning set the record for interceptions as a rookie.
Right.
Like, he wasn't good. I mean, he obviously figured it out.
Yeah, he figured it out, but
I mean, they built around him, and he had good coaching.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes time, especially with some of these kids. And the fan base, the organization, just the culture in general, like, just doesn't give them that time to do it.
I feel like as an artist, and I think about everything as sports analogies because it's just what I spend most of my time watching and paying attention to. But, you know, for me, those like first 2 years, like my Aaron Rodgers years watching Brett Favre is like me in Atlanta as a songwriter, working with a bunch of different artists.
So this is after you left Georgetown?
Yeah, after I left Georgetown, I was really locked in on songwriting, and it was like, this is going to be the path. And I started to have a few different producers and people on the internet being like, some of these songs are really good. And I'm like, okay, well,
so were you pushing everything out on the internet at this point?
Pretty much pushing everything out to the internet, because DC doesn't really have a music infrastructure, and as a songwriter, that's really the only path you have unless you can get like some type of music publisher or manager who can send your stuff out on your behalf.
So how'd you get to Atlanta then?
I graduated, and just literally the first job I got in Atlanta, I just took and was like, I had met a few people through the internet that I was like, you know, there's a big music scene in Atlanta, especially in the R&B hip hop space. And I was like, okay, I know how to write that. I can figure it out. And so I was working with a bunch of different artists. In 2019, I had, well, every year up until then, I'm like, I just want to get like a major label cut. Like I want an artist.
I read somewhere that you had like 2,000 songs written or something crazy.
Yeah, I wrote an insane amount of songs. Like anyone who knew me between the years of like 2014 and 2020, I was not present. Like I was just writing songs. I was just writing songs, and if I was like doing anything else, it was so that I could write more songs. Gotcha. You know, like if I'm scrolling through the internet, I'm looking for a word or a title or something that could spark something. But
do you still have them all written down somewhere?
Yeah, I've got a big hard drive of a bunch of songs, and most of the songs weren't that good. You know, like the truth of the matter is, I had to learn how to actually write a great song, and it took me a good 1,500 songs before I wrote one that I'm like, this is a great song. Wow. Straight up, like everyone who listens to this agrees this is a great song. This isn't just like a, there's something there type of song. It's like, this has it. But then to do that consistently takes time.
Do you hear the music as you write it, or do you think about the music after you write it?
I usually write to chords.
Gotcha.
So whether I come up with the chords or if I'm with an instrumentalist or someone who's building a track, that's usually how I do it. But I also sometimes will build chords to whatever melody comes to mind. And you know, I'm someone that if I'm not speaking, I'm probably singing something in my mind, or at least hearing a melody. And I'm often guilty of like mindlessly humming, and some people love it and some people hate it. Definitely annoys my sister and some of my close friends, but I just can't turn it off.
So I mean, you maybe weren't a prodigy, but you've developed into a prodigy at this point.
I mean, I just think,
or would you say you're just obsessive?
I'm just obsessive, dude. Like I just and I really love it. You know, like I really love what I do. There are a few things. There's like two things that I am obsessed with the moment. One, the moment where I successfully land a hook, where I'm like, that's the punchline, that's it. Like there's a hook that I wrote, which is like, it's called line dancing, and it's a clever little thing, and it's also at a tempo that you could line dance to it, which is what I wanted.
Don't put it out there, someone might steal it.
No, I'm gonna put it out there because then they'll know that it was right here.
Gotcha.
See, if anything,
that's a good point.
That's the way to do it. Is IP, but it's like oh girl, you got me line dancing, between sober and way too drunk. Oh, you really got me line dancing, between where we are and what it was. There's the lines we draw and the ones we cross, and the one I hit when it's been too long, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's the line I'm dancing on. Ooh. And it's, you know, when you land it, it's like, oh, I get it. Like that to me, if you can land a hook, that moment creatively when you see the puzzle come into focus, that's a great moment, you know? And then the other moment that I have now as a performer is being able to know after, when I'm coming off stage or even while I'm on stage, that I'm matching the energy that the audience is giving me, and that both of those energies have risen from the moment I came on stage to the moment I walk off stage, and everybody feels that. And there's a magic about it that you can't replicate digitally. You have to be there to do it. It's a live music thing. You literally just have to feel it. And I've had a few shows that have felt like that, and now I'm like, everything has to feel like that. If it doesn't meet that standard where everyone leaves there and is like, wow, that was a magical moment, then but those two moments of like figuring out the song, figuring out the performance, I'm obsessed with those. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get to those moments
more often.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Do you love the stage?
I do.
Energy.
I do. I used to be afraid of the stage. Yeah. I feel like growing up, I had a few situations, like, I don't know, when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I sang for the mayor at a citywide talent show, and peed my pants singing America the Beautiful, or it might have been My Country 'Tis of Thee. Either way, I peed my pants. And it happened to me again when I was like 9 or 10, and then I was like kind of just nervous about stage fright.
Got a little gun shy.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, what if I pee myself?
Yeah.
And when you get nervous, I think that's even probably, I'm sure athletes have that moment before the game. But once I got over that, and I'm like, all right, worst thing that's gonna happen here, I'm not gonna pee myself. But worst thing that happens, maybe I forget a line, or maybe they don't love it as much as I want. But somebody told me, it was actually Garth Brooks told me that the audience's experience is a direct reflection of your own. And so it doesn't matter how much talent you have. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. It just matters, are you enjoying yourself on stage? Are you having a good time? Are you really immersed in that moment with them? They're going to have that same experience watching you. And if you come on stage nervous, if you come on stage intimidated, they're going to feel that, and they're not going to enjoy themselves. So it's like, you just got to go for it.
It's called mirror neurons.
Yeah.
My therapist taught me this years ago. So like, it's like whatever you're putting off, someone's going to mirror that for the most part.
Especially when they're watching you in that type of a setting. Absolutely. But especially, even in personal interactions, you can tell when someone is enjoying themselves, engaged, having a good time. Tapped in. You can't fake that.
No.
Pop quiz. How safe is your internet browsing? I bet you don't know, do you? You might not even be thinking about it, but you know who is? Hackers, advertisers, data companies. There are a lot of people who know what you're doing online. So let me help you out by hooking you up with my friends at IPVanish. IPVanish is a VPN, a virtual private network. You may or may not know what it is, but a VPN basically makes you invisible to all those prying eyes on the web. You just connect to IPVanish and then go browse wherever you want. And IPVanish encrypts your data to make sure your info like passwords and private details remain yours. You can use IPVanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed, your computers, tablets, phones, even devices like your Fire Stick when you're streaming media. Whether I'm at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IPVanish. And right now they're offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's just like getting 9 months for free. Stop sharing your digital info with the world. Take your privacy back today with the brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. So go to IPVanish.com/Cutler and use promotional code Cutler and claim your 70% savings. That's IPVanish.com/Cutler.
That was the difference between, like, I think that's the difference between sports and you guys. You guys are immersed in working with the audience, where for me, like, I was shutting off the audience.
That's true.
Like, I mean, I was literally like, I couldn't hear anything. Like, I would be locked in, like they were gone. I mean, there's certain moments, like after a touchdown, certain plays, like, you get to enjoy it, but then it's like, all right, just straight shut off again.
But even like, I don't know, like the difference between playing at home and playing away.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's all environment, right? Yeah. Like you can see that teams win more at home than they do on the road. And you could say maybe some of that is because they didn't have to travel. They were sleeping in their own beds. Yeah. There's other factors, but I think a lot of it has to do with the energy that the crowd brings. If you've got 70,000 people cheering for you and 70,000 people cheering against you, those are two different experiences.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, you're going against that 13th person or that 12th person out there, and like they're making it extremely hard for you to hear.
Right.
I mean, I think defensive guys probably work with the crowd more than offensive guys. Right. But I mean, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there definitely is an energy that you get.
You could tell, and also when a game gets close, when you're doing a 2-minute drill, everybody is feeling the same thing of, oh, we got to get this right now. I feel like the only equivalent I can draw as a performer to that, because you never really just have a crowd that's like actively booing you. Hopefully I don't ever have to deal with that. But there is the difference of like, opening up for someone and the crowd doesn't know who you are and having to win them over, or me playing a show in a smaller venue that I can sell out with my fans who are there to see me. That's like away crowd, home crowd.
Exactly. Oh, I get that. So you're in Atlanta, you're riding everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And then what happened then?
What happened next was I had kind of convinced myself that I wasn't gonna do the artist thing.
Just songwriter.
Just gonna write songs for people, but I was working with a lot of different artists and watching them make moves that I'm like, I wouldn't do that. You know, like whether it was like how they were just lifestyle, you know, and also the hip hop world is a lot different in terms of lifestyle than the country world is. Not to say like, you know, they both party, but it's different, just different scene.
For sure.
And the way that people work in Atlanta is a lot different than the way they work in Nashville. Atlanta, people were, you know, as a songwriter, I would be on the schedule of whatever artist I was working with. So if I'm working with a rapper that wants to go to the club from 11 to 3 a.m. and then wants to work from 3 to 9 a.m., then I have to be nocturnal.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to miss out on that opportunity. And so I feel like my schedule really wasn't my own.
Yeah.
And so I came across my debut single, My Truck, and I wrote it and was like, I don't know if anyone else can do this. I feel like I need to just put it out and just see what happens.
Was it a dare? I read it was kind of a dare.
More of my friends, and I had kind of secretly been listening to country music and thinking about ways that I could do something with it. But
did you have a bunch of country songs that you kind of written, or was this kind of the first one where you're like, hey, like?
I had written some like acoustic guitar songs that probably could have been considered country in a way, but could have also just been considered pop songs. But it wasn't a foreign concept for me to write something that was country-ish, but this one was like, yo, like we're gonna just go for it, we're gonna write it about a truck. And that was like people didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know that I can do it. And so I did it. And then once I did it, I was like, wait, this is really good.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I don't know if there's any other artists that are going to be able to actually execute this song in the way that I'm hearing it. So I'm like, let me just put it out myself.
Yep.
I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a label. I didn't have a ton of followers on any socials. I was like, just put it out there. And it got like 10,000 streams in the first 48 hours. And then it had no other streams for like the next 2.5 months.
Really?
Literally nothing. I was like, all right, whatever. Like we tried it.
Yeah.
And then somehow it starts to pop off on TikTok. And TikTok was a new platform at the time. This is end of 2019.
Yeah.
And people are messaging me like, yo, I came across your song on TikTok. And I'm like, okay, word. And I'm looking at it and there's new videos going up every minute, every few seconds. We're putting up a couple thousand videos a day. And then a bunch of different labels started reaching out like, Breland, you're the artist behind this song? And I'm like, I guess so. Go out to LA, New York, Nashville, meet with a bunch of different labels, end up signing a record deal at the top of 2020.
How do you decide on who to sign with? Was it tough?
It was kind of just an energy thing, you know, like the label from a sports perspective would be like the front office.
Gotcha.
You can have a great relationship with them and things go great, or you could have a bad relationship with them and things don't go great.
Oh,
and what I got from the people at Atlantic and Warner, where I ended up ultimately signing, was that they understood that I'm not a regular type of artist.
Sure.
The type of country music that I make isn't super conventional, and that it's going to take a while to break it, but that if they were invested in it the way that I am, that it would work. And I felt that energy from them.
Give you some flexibility to do you.
Yeah, you know, like I'm like, don't try to put me in a box that I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, and let me figure it out and work with me to help me figure it out. And I got that vibe, and we ended up signing the deal. The world shut down, and then everyone had to figure out, okay, well, how do we break a new artist without being able to play any live shows or meet anyone in person?
Yeah.
And there was obviously no blueprint for that, and it hurt everyone in different ways. You know, it from a music industry perspective. But what it definitely allowed me to do was move to Nashville, and I had some collabs come out with Keith Urban and.
Well, I mean, you did the remix with Sam Hunt. That 1 million units as of January 2021.
Yeah.
And then you did you co-wrote two. How'd you come up? You co-wrote 2 songs for Urban September 2020 album.
Yeah.
How'd you get in touch with Keith?
He reached out to me. It just shot me a text and was like, hey, he was like, yo, DB. He's like, this is Keith, as in Urban. And I was like, what? like what's going on here? And I was still living in Atlanta at the time, and he was like, you know, love what you're doing. Like, came across some of your stuff, and let me know when you'll be in Nashville. I'm like, bro, I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm driving now.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I will be there tomorrow. And I literally drove up and came to his house at like 8 a.m. He was like not even ready for me, and he was like, all right, just wait here for a bit. Let me like get ready, and I'll come down. And then we worked all that day. Ended up doing my song, Throw It Back, that day, and then came back the next day and wrote one for his project called Out the Cage, and then he doesn't work on the weekends. He was just like family time, and so I came back the next week, and we did a couple more days and just started making more music. And so by the end of that 2 weeks, we had 2 songs for his project, 1 for mine, and then a couple others we were trying to figure out what to do. And
did it come pretty easy with him?
It comes pretty easy, man. We have different influences that we draw from, but we have the same understanding of like what's right and what isn't right. And that's the biggest thing about chemistry in a studio is like there's the same set of notes that you have to choose from, but there's different melodies that you could decide, this is the melody, this is how we're gonna land this hook, this is what the song is gonna be about. You could have a different understanding of what that should sound like than the person you're working with, and Keith and I have always had a pretty similar understanding. So I'll throw out a wild idea and be like, I don't know about that, and he'll be like, okay, maybe it's not quite that, but maybe it's this, and I'm like, oh, that's for sure it. And we get to that point really quickly, and we've made a lot more music since then, and he's about to drop another project soon that hopefully has a few of the ones that we've done on there. But that was enough for me to be like, okay, I want to come to Nashville and move here for real, because the energy felt right.
Yeah, and you're working with Keith Urban, so
I was like,
obviously you could do it.
Yeah, and moving to town, I think helped kind of give us all a shot in the arm, on Team Breland of like, okay, like that was big. That's like, the Eagles just getting AJ Brown. Like that's what it felt like when I got the Keith collabs, because I'm like, now we have 3 songs, 2 that we know are coming out on his project, and another that we can figure out what to do with. That gives us some more energy and momentum to put out more music, and that's really what it did.
Anybody out there that you want to work with that you haven't yet?
Yeah, man. I feel like in the country space, I would love to do something with Casey Musgraves. I feel like she's just got a really cool crossover,
it's a cool vibe
type sound. Yeah. And then in the hip hop world, I would love to get Drake on a country song, man.
Oh wow!
I just think that would be fun. His dad's from Memphis. He's got a lot of Southern roots, and spends a lot of time in Memphis and Kentucky for whatever reason. And
Is it
like,
Kentucky?
Bro, he's a big Kentucky basketball fan and hangs out with Calipari all the time. I'm like, bro, it wouldn't be that hard to do. He's done everything else. So, hopefully that opportunity comes around.
Put it out there in the world. Here we go, Drake.
But Breland. It's cool to see like different people even outside of country music that are paying attention to what's happening and what I'm doing, and certain collabs that are coming together. Like I had Pharrell reach out, and he's like, bro, like, he wants to work on some stuff. So I'm literally headed out to Miami to work on some stuff with him. And
you're probably gonna be the next Pharrell for the most part.
I mean, it's cool to have your own sound.
Sure.
And I think
you do. You kind of have your own unique.
If you have your own sound, like I feel like from a sports comparison, I'm like a mobile quarterback. Yeah. In a lot of ways, and there's definitely people who are like very traditional country fans that are like, you can't do that. You can't scramble around the pocket and take off for 25 yards. I don't like when you do that. And I'm like, but it works, And then there's some people that are like, hey, I love that you're doing this. This makes the game more exciting for me, you know? So, whether it's like a Dante Culpepper or like a,
Randall
Cunningham or Michael Vick situation. Yeah. I feel like in a lot of ways, me playing around with other genres is kind of just like a mobile quarterback. Yeah. But I love.
I think it's awesome for everybody involved. I mean, it's just you're spicing it up, you're mixing it up. It's new sound, new energy.
And the people within country music, in terms of the artists in it, it gives us different ways to collaborate, where I can kind of hop on a Dirk song and do kind of like the rap feature on that, but then I can hop on a Nelly song and do kind of the country part on that. So there's space.
Yeah, you're very versatile.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Uncut with Jay Cutler is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedies, celebrity interviews, news, or even motivational speakers, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue, right? And guess what? Now you can call the shots on your auto insurance too. Enter the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. The Name Your Price tool puts you in charge of your auto insurance by working just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, then they'll show you a variety of coverage that fit within your budget, giving you options. Now that's something you'll want to press play on. It's easy to start a quote and you'll be able to choose the best option for you, fast. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive Insurance. Quote today at Progressive.com to try the Name Your Price tool for yourself and join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Companies and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
All right, so we've got Thomas Rhett's out right now. Praise the Lord.
Yes, sir.
Cross Country set. That's scheduled for
Sometime this summer.
Sometime this summer.
It's
You're getting it right.
I'm getting it right. And honestly, right. We're going to put the pre-save up at some point soon, and then you'll know the specific what we're thinking,
where we're headed.
Yeah.
And then your tours. When you head out on that?
We're playing all over. So I would just say check BreelandMusic.com.
BreelandMusic.com.
Come to a city New Year, man. It's a party.
Instagram.
Yeah, at Breeland on everything, bro.
At Breeland on everything. Check him out. He's gonna be huge.
Thanks, man.
He's gonna be on everybody. He's gonna be after him.
And at some point, I just gotta catch a pass from you.
We can do that.
Okay.
We will figure that out.
Yeah,
I guarantee.
We'll figure it out.
Well, I know you got a music video you got to do.
Word.
I know you're busy, obviously.
Dude.
I appreciate you coming in. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Great to chat with you, buddy.
Anytime, man. Thank you.
For sure.